All right, so one thing I was just noticing, Jordan, I think different cultures harp on different skill sets more. Sort of when you look at Hispanic fighters, they really harp on that toughness sort of that they get from boxing. The same thing goes into their MMA fighters, sort of like that never die, never stay quit attitude, that toughness with sharp boxing and good speed. Whereas if you look at sort of like an Asian fighter who is growing up doing that traditional martial arts, I look at a lot of their fighters, they're not putting themselves into firefights, sort of like other fighters. When I look at them, they're going with good technique and accuracy. I'm always impressed by the accuracy of people who've gotten into that traditional martial arts culture. So I feel like every culture has something different to bring into fighting. And I think now with the UFC being so globalized, we're now seeing those different cultures brought up with martial arts and seeing how it's mixing together. And I really don't know which one is the best, because you look at Russian fighters and they're really, well, Khabib, his team is really wrestling oriented. So everyone is offering something different when it comes from cultures. What do you think is the best style? And which culture do you think has that style?
That was interesting. I never thought about that. That was a good point you made with the Mexicans and the persistence and the heart. But if I were to pick one, I would have to say the Russians and the Dagestanis. The reason being is those people, you see, their approach to wrestling is similar to the Thai approach to Muay Thai. You got 4-year-olds that as soon as they learn to walk, they're learning how to properly kick and knee and elbow in Thailand. Same thing applies for the Russians and the Dagestanis. Now the thing is, once they get to into the higher echelon of MMA, their skill vastly surpasses those of the other cultures. So you might have someone that's an amazing at striking, and they're amazing at wrestling, and they seem to have good chins too. You ever notice that the Russians got really good chins?
I think it's from the fact that they don't get hit a lot because they wrestle so much. They're not really taking that wear and tears. Where if you got someone who's boxer heavy, they already been through 95 gym wars and 15 crazy MMA fights and 20 amateur boxing fights. Where these Dagestani fighters are coming in grappling heavy and they haven't had that wear and tear.
Right. So if you piecing them up, they'll take a couple shots to drag you down, and once they drag you down, it's night. So I think wrestling is like probably the most important wrestling in MMA. And I like striking. I love striking, but the facts is the facts. I got wrestling Russians.
Right. Yeah, because I'm gonna say, because we got American wrestling, and it doesn't really compare to the wrestlings that they do over in Dagestan and in Russia, or just the Sambo. So you're gonna go with Russia, and the wrestling is the best attribute to have when it comes to this new generation of fighting.
Yeah. Once, especially that you implement that nasty, vicious, hungry ground and pound, there's nothing you could do. They'll take the shots to get you to the ground. If you're a wrestler, they're most likely better than you. You know what I mean? I got the Russians in the wrestling by far.
See, early on in the UFC, it was really Brazil coming out with the jiu-jitsu that was really giving people a fit. Do you think over time, because everything's going to evolve, how long do you think it's going to take for us to sort of get on that level? People who aren't from that culture, who aren't brought up doing wrestling and sambo and stuff like that from the time they're young. Because now we sort of, Khabib has fought, other people who derive from that culture have fought, and we see their fights. How long till we sort of steal what they're doing and implement it into our culture and our fight culture?
Many years. I think it's going to take a long time. First of all, these kids are, well, he was wrestling bears. That's just not even our culture. It's not what we do. He was wrestling bears. I mean, it just. I don't think we could catch up. I think it's pretty much over. It's like, what can America
I don't think it's over.
Do? Well, okay, how about this then? What can America do to catch up to Brazil in the World Cup? No, ain't no catching up with them.
But
you might be able to
look at the Brazilian jiu-jitsu though. Like even in jiu-jitsu, there's some guys who are crazy with jiu-jitsu, but Ortega's crazy with the jiu-jitsu. He's not Brazilian. So I think it's gonna come. Maybe it might take 10 years, maybe it might take 20 years for us to get that wrestling. But I think eventually that gap's gonna close. But when it comes to the striking, though, like I was saying earlier, when you look at people who've done those traditional martial arts, I am always impressed by their shot selection and the accuracy of people who've grown up doing that traditional taekwondo and karate, things of that nature. Because sometimes you get, like I said, those people who came up in that street boxer life who will throw one and take three. I think the accuracy sometimes is very impressive. And that's something that needs to be harped on a little bit more in striking. Because oftentimes you're like, let's just hit the face. But it's like, people who've done that traditional martial arts, they're not just hitting the face, they're hitting the eye, they're hitting behind the ear, they're hitting the nose. So, or you could just, like, you know how it is growing up in the streets, we want to see head movement, speed. So I just think it's sort of like the UFC is the Mecca now. We're just seeing it all because you growing up in the streets in the gym in the hood, we harping on head movement. We harping on the hand speed, the fluidity of the hands. I think that's also pretty to watch. Like just like seeing somebody slip a punch and just land an accurate shot after he's been sort of stagnant. I think seeing someone tee off with 30 shots and have slick head movements just as pretty.
Yeah.
So I really, on the feet, I can't really say because I rock with it all. I'm a fan of all types of stand-up. The ties, I'm a fan of the kicking. I'm a fan of the raw power of the kicking. I'm not really a fan of the Thai style boxing.
I like the Dutch. I like seeing Dutch fighters fight. I like that Dutch kickboxing.
So fluid. It's fluid.
Yeah, it's so fluid. It's vicious too. And it's something about watching it. I can't even explain it. It's just like because you have the same elements of boxing. Because I think I know what it is. Because I think I'm more boxer oriented. And Dutch kickboxing is like pretty much boxing to set up the kick.
Right.
So boxing to set up the knee. So I just like watching it. Yeah.
The hands work with the feet. Whereas sometimes in Thai, if you watch like the traditional Thai fighting, the hand work isn't that crisp. And they're just throwing shots, but you know they want to throw the kick. They're throwing the punches, but you know they want to throw the kick.
Yeah, knees are scored. Legs are like scored higher.
To be honest, I rock with it all, but now we got this new generation of fighters who are coming from countries in Africa. So it's sort of like, what are they going to be bringing to the table? Because